Hello, welcome back. Today I thought we'd draw water with lily pads in it. A first grader asked me if I could do a drawing of a frog on a lily pad, so I figured I should maybe practice my lily pads first and the water around it, and then figure out how to put the frog on there. So I'll do this picture, which is maybe for some people that are a little bit older, because I'll have more colors in it, take a little bit longer. And as always, I'm doing it on this size paper. But if you want to do it on a smaller piece of paper, or if you would rather just take and use your blue pencil and figure out the amount of space that you want to fill in, or that you think you can fill in the time you have. But the smaller you go, the sharper your pencils have to be. Now, I have an electric pencil sharpener, so it's really easy for me to go from this nubby one to a nice sharp point. But if you have a little one that you put it in and turn like this, make sure you sharpen your pencils beforehand. Okay, so for our lily pads, we're going to have the lily pads and a flower in the middle. The flower, when it comes up through the water, it's like a little ball that comes straight up, and when it hits the top of the water, it just floats on there and just opens it up its petals, sort of like you see my fingers. Now the leaf is more of a point, and it starts out just coming straight up like this, and it's wrapped really tightly, and when it gets above the water, it kind of senses that, and it flops over, and as it flops over, it opens up. So it's if you have your two hands together, you can see how it opens up. There's a little spot in the middle where the stem keeps it attached way down in the water. So the first thing we have to do is kind of lay out what we're going to draw. And I like to lay out with a blue pencil, especially when we're doing water. So the first thing we want to do is the important part is where our flower is going to be. And that's shaped a little bit like a cup, like a U. So we're going to put that in there. I'm going to put it in a little bit darker than I would if I were drawing, because we want to try to make the lines disappear. These are just layout lines. So we go down on one side and down on the other side, and we have our flower petals. Now, so you can see where they kind of overlap when they're opening up. When it gets all the way open, the flowers actually go all the way down to the water. And so we have to have, it's kind of a circle. If I were to take this and turn it, you would see it as a circle. And so if I think about it as a circle, I have to have the petals on the other side of the circle over there. And then maybe there's another little layer in between. So there's my flower, and my lily pads, when they come up, like I say, they have a little rounded area here where the stem's attached when it opens. So we'll go like that, and then so this one we're kind of close to, and we're seeing more round. The ones over here are maybe angled a little bit further away. Now you could just draw it as a circle, because we're going to use blue to get and blend that in, and then put this part in the middle. So if you're going to do that, then once you have the circle in blue, just go back in and go around your circle with green, and on this edge just come in a little bit. So you would have a circle, and then you would kind of come in to your circle. I think we'll have, up here we'll have a couple more little lily pads, and I'm giving 3 for each flower that I have. So I'll add a flower up here that is more open. And one over here, that's the little ball that it is when it just pops above the water. So this is our scene. This is if we're like really low to the water. We're not seeing any of the background. We're just seeing the water. And now that we've got this, we want to have, especially if I'm going to have a frog on the lily pad, we're going to have ripples around these. So just take this from this edge here, as if when it's a circle, go this way and swing a little bit wide, and do that a couple times, because this is going to be, so by coming off this, right on top that edge, I go along it, I swing wide, stop right about there, come along that edge again and swing wide again. And these are my ripples that come out from the lily pads. And these are going to be lines that I use. So I'll come around there, go a little bit wide. And see right here, they're kind of coming together. And the same around the lily pad, we're going to have a little bit of the flower, not the lily pad. We'll come along like that, and then as it goes around there, then maybe we'll just kind of have it make some wavy lines going off like that. And these are giving us lines that we can use for leaving some white space when we're filling in the rest of it. Back here we don't really need to put the ripples in because it's pretty far away and we're not going to see the sunlight on it. So the hardest part is going to be filling in all of our colors. Now on the lily pads, when they're a lot like leaves, so they have kind of a veiny structure to them, and it looks a little bit like this. Kind of like if you were drawing the rays of a sun coming out from it, only they kind of get rounded at the end. So they're all, even though they're green, they're almost like flowers themselves. So this gives us an area, and when you look at it, it's all going to be green, but we just want to put these lines kind of underneath so that if we color in this area first and then go over the whole thing a second time. And you know what? It might be best if we follow the shape of the, almost as if it's a flower and we're having a sun, and the rays are coming out from this center spot. And that'll kind of give us the feeling of how the leaf grows. So we put those lines in, and then we go over it a second time. All the way out to the edge, and we can still see our lines underneath. And it's a little bit scratchy right now, so what we do is we take like a lighter green, and then I think I'm just going to try a little bit of yellow and see what happens. I don't know. Maybe I'll take a little bit of the darker green. And so basically we're filling in all these green areas, and we're going to save our lightest greens for up here. And we're going to put these in pretty light because they're farther away. But we want to have the edge that's right on the water a little bit darker than the rest. And this is also a chance where we can start thinking about our colors. Now the same way we have on here, we have a center part. When these open up, there's kind of a center line on each one of these petals. So if we put that in there, and then we kind of shade in an up and down way with a little bit of pink, it gives us a little bit of color. Now, this is water, so it's going to reflect in the water that pink color. So we'll put, same over here, we're going to just put a little bit of pink in. And you don't have to do the whole perfect flower right now. We're just going to laying out our colors and get a feeling for where everything is. I'm going to switch. So you can see here I've gone a little bit further. And when we get to this part here, this whole area here is going to be just kind of fairly blue. But behind here, see, I'm holding my pencil kind of flat like that, so I get a larger area of my lead, and the way we get the white of the flower is more about the darkness of the background to make it feel like. And I'm going to go across with straight lines because that's the way we kind of see water, and if there's a little bit of waviness to it, we're going to have these lines, and it's pretty easy to fill in when you go all the way across. But even up here, we're going to want to leave a little bit of the pink in the water as the reflection. So we don't draw an exact duplicate because it's a little bit shimmery in the water, so it's not going to be like a mirror. And I'll take this chance to go and put like a little shadow in the water around the edges, because this will be the darkest little spot right next to the leaves. So you can see back here I'm doing it over here. And since the water is kind of reflecting a little bit of the woods around it, and maybe there's some green underneath, we'll go back in and we're going to put some lines of green across here. Now, you pay careful attention that you don't run over your flowers. You want lines that look like they're going through, but you have to stop right when you hit the flower. And there's other colors we can put in too, like if we put in a little bit of orange, it kind of gives us a feeling of what kind of day it is. It gives us a little bit of the feeling of warmth to it. Now these lines down here, where we were talking about right next to it, where there are ripples, we're going to, instead of going across like water, we're going to go following the pattern around here. We're going to make little lines coming out, and the lines that we put in, these are the lines where we start with. So we leave a little gap of white there. We start on our line, and this gives us kind of, so we don't have to step and look back at our picture because we already have the lines there. We know that's where we're going to leave a little bit of white. Not so much around the lily pad, but we want to have kind of a nice dark shadow right on the edge. Like I said, this part here is water too, so since it's water, we want it running this way. Since we've already colored in our green here, we can go over that and just fill it in with right over the top of the green with the blue. And so the white part turns blue and the green part just turns a little bit blue-green. So when you're doing this, you can kind of see little shapes that feel like they're water, and this is where you make choices about what's going to stay and what's going to not stay in your coloring of your picture. Like up here when I'm making my decisions about putting a little bit of orange in and going all the way across with maybe some purple. This is a good place to have fun and try out what different colors look like when they're next to each other and when they kind of go over the top of each other. As long as we kind of save this area right underneath. See, white lines between for our feeling of the reflection. We want to leave white for reflection of the petals too out there. And the lines that we came across with, those are going to be our lines where we're going to leave a little bit of white so we can feel there's kind of a rhythm to our ripples. And see, like right here, I left it, I'm just going to darken this in so you can see the shape I have here is kind of like this. Kind of like a little bit of an S right there, and maybe gets a little bigger there. And so those are the lines that I had kind of drawn in, and this kind of feels like it's kind of wrapping around this way. I'm going to go to more of the finished picture, and you can see here that I go back in and I find where the petals are overlapping, I put in a little bit of shadow, which I'm using purple, and right here in this little tiny place between, you can just barely see, I'm making that really dark, and they get smaller. And oh, I forgot to mention right here, there's a little bit of yellow. See, a little bit of yellow in the it's kind of coming right, and I can draw those in as little tiny circular balls, because those are little tiny middle of the flower that you can only see when it's fully open. So I can't see them here, but I can see them here and here. And I don't need to put those in the water because the petals are kind of, when they open up, they're kind of blocking the reflection. Now I can see over in this area here, I have a white pencil. So just to show you what happened, this is called burnishing. I take the white pencil and I rub really hard with it back and forth, and it kind of blends the colors together. At the same time, it kind of fills in a little bit of the white. Now you can, on some pictures you do when you want to get that kind of glossy feeling, you could use your light pink. So I'll do that right down here so you can see what it looks like. So what it does is it kind of fills in the white area so the white's not popping out, because you can see like right here along the edge of the leaf where it's kind of, I've left it white so it kind of sticks out a little bit, but if I go back in there and use maybe a light blue and fill that in, it has a different feeling to it, a more finished feeling. So over here I used the white to blend it together. Over here I used the pink. You can just use the blue. And the other thing I did in this picture is, you see right here, these areas, and this is the little tiny round flower that's just coming up. Maybe I better put a little bit of pink in there so we can kind of get a feel for it. But I take my dark pencil after I've got all these colors in here across, and I'm creating a kind of a little bit of darkness this way, and this way, which leaves these light areas here. So that gives the feeling that it's maybe at the edge of the pond, and this would be an area where a tree would be making some shade. And I come here and I stop for my bright colors there, and they're kind of coming at an angle. And this gives me the opportunity to make it feel like there's maybe a cooler edge back there, and you're coming out to the sunlight here. But by making these kind of a little bigger up here and coming down narrower, kind of gives a feeling of distance that you wouldn't have otherwise. Now your lily pads here, I didn't do a whole lot of work on them, but you can try the same way. You use colors up here. You can go in with your cool colors, like your white and like your blue, and just kind of give a little bit of these shapes to the lily pad. So have fun, experiment with it. Like I say, if you're going to draw small, you need sharper pencils. I have these very big pencils, so I can fill in areas really fast. And a lot of people, like me, when we are working on our pictures, we like to do a sketch like this and do it fairly fast. So then maybe we go back and do it as a watercolor picture, or maybe we go back and do it as an oil painting. Till we meet again, be safe, be happy, go outside and play, enjoy the sunshine. I'm Mr. Kane.